This is Candor Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into the show. But before we get into the show, don't forget to check out our website, sylviaexpress.com. What's up, fabulous people? How you doing on this wonderful Saturday? All right, let me just get right into it. Okay, so Don Jr., a.k.a. Fredo Trump Jr., who eagerly seeks to be accepted into the upper tier of the Trump crime syndicate, which is called the Trump Leones, like the Corleones. He tried to lie for his father, the flagrant foul, the imposter in the White House, and now Cohen is about to expose it all. Yeah, that's pretty much a quick summation of what's about to happen. It's about to be pretty bad for the Trump crime syndicate. But anyway, I have to comment on Fredo Jr.'s stupidity. Like, Fredo denied that his father had any information about the Trump Tower Russia meeting before the meeting had occurred, and that he just basically found out about it after the fact because it was just so inconsequential. Fredo said unequivocally, no, that his father did not have any information about this about this meeting, basically before it came out in the media. He even was stupid enough to say that not only to the congressional committee, risking being found guilty for lying to Congress, but publicly on Sean Hannity, reconfirming the lie that he told to Congress. Here it is.
This was not what we were in there talking about.
A lot of people are going to want to know this about your father. Mm-hmm. Did you tell your father anything about this?
No. It was such a nothing. There was nothing to tell. I mean, I wouldn't have even remembered it until you start scouring through the stuff. It was literally just a wasted 20 minutes, which was a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you wouldn't remember talking to some Russians? Okay, so everyone's sitting there talking about your father and his alleged collusion with Russians, and you just didn't remember about that conversation you had with some Russians. You just wouldn't have remembered about it. We're supposed to believe that? We're supposed to buy that? Is that really what you're going to tell us? But what's more important is what's consequential is the fact that they keep lying about something they claim was inconsequential. If it was an impotent and completely meaningless interaction, then there is no reason to lie about it and then lie repeatedly some more. Even if nothing nefarious happened, they've created the perception that it did. Now, the allegation is that Cohen intends to corroborate the government's case on that particular issue, saying that Trump did know about it before that actual meeting took place. Here it is.
President Trump's former lawyer and fixer says he is now willing to cooperate with special counsel Robert Mueller. Cohen alleges that then-candidate Donald Trump knew in advance about a controversial June 2016 Trump Tower meeting where Russians were expected to give damaging information on Hillary Clinton. Now, this claim would contradict repeated denials by the president and what the president's son and son-in-law have said.
Okay, now, who advises the Trumps? But more importantly, Don Jr. should have declined to answer that question. That specific question he should have never answered. He should have never lied about it. He hurt his father badly by talking about it at all. Now, he will be investigated for lying to Congress, which can carry 5 years in prison. If he is indicted, his father has a dilemma of trying to pardon his son for lying on his behalf or allowing his son to be tried like a criminal. And it's not just a claim of lying that will likely be brought. There will likely be conspiracy claims and other claims that will be brought against him as well. However, this is the first time that it is publicly clear, without refutation, that Don Jr. committed a crime. Now, Flynn, he's pleading guilty to lying to federal investigators. Same with others. So lying to governmental bodies is something Mueller takes clearly he takes this very seriously. I mean, it's obvious that he takes that seriously, considering how many people are actually pleading guilty to lying. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was that, what was it, Holland National that ended up going to prison for like 30 days. It was because he lied. Now, Don Jr. is in real legal jeopardy. While Mueller likely already knows every single thing that transpired relating to that meeting, we didn't know that Cohen could confirm that Trump knew beforehand. And let me just say something. When Fredo gets indicted and arrested, he'll get his first phone call, and it shouldn't be to his dad. I'm telling you, he'll be like, he'll call his dad and be like, Dad, what do I do? Trump will be like, well, the first thing you need to do is stop calling me Dad. He's like, I really know you. The whole father-son thing was cool and all, but today I think it's the time for them to be part ways, okay? So don't call me again, okay? You all right? Okay, great. Okay, all right. That's great. Okay, all right, great. Bye. rushing his ass all the way off the phone. You think Trump is going to sit around and be worried about Don Jr. and Don Jr. getting indicted? No, let's act like Donald Trump and his kids, they have this like fantastic relationship. Oh, no. Don't call your dad Don Jr. Do not call your father. You need to call somebody who cares about you, maybe your new girlfriend, but do not call your father. I will tell you that right now, because your father is the last person that wants to talk to you after you blundered this particular situation. And then on top of that, your father's got you as the Fredo, the Fredo in the house. I mean, Eric, I don't even know if Eric's really the Fredo anymore, because you're the one that keeps getting caught up in stuff. I mean, maybe you aren't the Fredo trends. Maybe you're just Fredo alone without Eric, because Eric's not getting caught up in this. Why do you keep getting caught up in this, Don Jr.? It's very, very difficult to understand. So now we got Fredo Jr., which is Don Jr. We've got you just messing up royally to the point where now you put your father in a very serious legal bind. And then you've got Cohen. Another type of Fredo, but he's not your child. You know what I mean? The one that you want to call him Fredo, but you can't call him Fredo because he's not your child. Then you've got the Cohen tapes. See, while they were sitting here thinking that Cohen was completely delusional and stupid and everything else, which I do not disagree, but while they were sitting here thinking that stuff, Cohen was sitting there taping them. And I didn't want to talk about the Cohen tape that was released. Like, I didn't want to talk about it in full detail last time I was on the show until I digested it and that I knew and felt like I knew what was pertinent. One thing that was missing in the conversation was that it was irrelevant whether it was cash that was said by Trump or check. It was clearly cash, though. Trump said cash. Nevertheless, what preceded that part was a discussion about setting up a fraudulent company to launder money to people who pose a threat to Trump getting elected. So whether they intended to deposit a check in a fraudulent company or cash in a fraudulent company really doesn't negate the criminality if it happened. Here is what was said in that tape that actually matters. Here it is.
I told you about Charleston. I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan-Wasselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be. Listen, what financing? We'll have to pay you. So no. I got no.
Okay, so you definitely hear Trump saying cash at first, which let me just tell you something, that's all mobbed up. Like, if you're literally going to be saying, let's go pay somebody $150,000 in cash, that is mafioso level, okay? That is New York style mafioso 101, okay? Nobody's paying somebody $150,000 in cash unless you're doing something that's illegal, period, okay? So then another thing, too, that, you hear on that specific tape is that, this was not something in which they were just so confused, or it was like it had sprung on them and they were just like, oh my God, there was like some shock there. What was admitted on that tape was their modus operandi. Their modus operandi. That's what was admitted on that tape. They set up fictitious companies and disguised them as legitimate for-profit businesses. They involved the CFO, who's Alan-Wasselberg, who I'll discuss later, and they used that company for every other purpose other than what it was presented to the public and as what it was registered for. Through that company, they launder the money to the other party or parties, and that's exactly what the prosecutors know. So every business Cohen has ever set up is getting scrutinized, and I guarantee you there are more schemes. So basically what you heard there was their modus operandi. What they basically do is set up these fictitious companies, and then they launder money through there for the purposes of covering up whatever kind of criminal activity that they've done, or something that they think might be scandalous, or something they don't want to get into the papers. That's essentially what they do. And even Fox News is admitting that this is not good news for Trump, what this tape that came out. Now, people might sit there and talk about it. They talk about the legality or illegality that's in that particular tape. What you actually need to focus on the fact is that this is what they do. So now, if this is what they do you think this is the first time that they've done it? So even if you say in this particular one, they never went forward with this particular conspiracy. Even if you say that they didn't go forward with this particular conspiracy, do you believe that this is the only conspiracy that they've created ever before? Neither one of them were shocked. Another thing that was on there was that Trump said before that he never had an affair with this particular woman. And like I said, I really don't give a damn if he had an affair with her. But the problem is that you were not shocked here when he was talking about setting up money to keep her story quiet. You weren't shocked at all. As a matter of fact, you were willing to pay the money, and you were trying to figure out exactly how do you pay the money. So for you to just get out there and just pretend like, this whole thing is a lie and it's false and fabricated, it's just absolutely absurd considering you just got caught on tape. So there's many things from that particular tape that matter. No matter what anybody says, there are many things from that tape that matter from a consequential perspective. Okay, so anyway, here's what Fox News basically said about that particular Cohen tape. Here it is.
There is an indication of a fraud, and the significance of that is if the client and the lawyer discuss the commission of a crime or discuss the commission of a fraud, there is no attorney-client privilege in that conversation, meaning the tape can be used by anybody who can get their hands on it for any purposes. Which would include Bob Mueller? McDougal if she's suing the president, which would include Bob Mueller if he's investigating the president. Now, what's the fraud? The conversation is about paying National Enquirer to pay McDougal $150,000 to buy her story and to lead her to believe that the National Enquirer is going to publish her story. But the real aim here is to bury the story by duping her into selling it to them and then not publishing it. That failure to be truthful to her and the involvement of Donald Trump and Michael Cohen in that decision is the fraud.
Okay, so the thing is, you have to understand that particular fraud right there pierces the attorney-client privilege, which means that other things related to that particular arrangement, if it ever went forward, if National Enquirer was a part of it, whatever, all that information is now no longer going to basically be considered attorney-client privilege, if there is any additional evidence on that. But not just that, it also makes it difficult to argue that they had Trump and Cohen a legitimate attorney-client relationship, considering you're hearing him on the tape, basically admitting to setting up fictitious companies, basically to launder money. That doesn't sound like a legitimate attorney-client relationship. And if there isn't a legitimate attorney-client relationship, then there's something called the crime fraud exception, which would basically pierce the attorney-client, privilege, and then allow a lot of that information to come forward. So the thing is let me just say something. They are alleging that there are over 100 tapes now. Not meaning that Trump is on all of them. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that Trump is on all of them. But there are 100 tapes. And so are Ivanka, Jared, the Fredo twins. And I feel badly calling them Fredo twins. But it's really Don Jr. It's really Don Jr. who's the Fredo. I mean, Eric is not the brightest bulb out there, but he's not getting caught up in a lot of this criminality, at least nothing that's come to the forefront right now, nothing that I'm aware of or, that is that public. I know that he's a part of his father's organization, generally speaking, is caught up in certain things, but he's not the one that's the stupid one that's going there, having meetings with Russians and then lying about it and then going into Congress and then lying about it to Congress. That's not Eric Trump that's doing that. So I'm not sure I should call them the Fredo twins. I'm not sure it's fair to Eric Trump. I mean, he is kind of a Fredo, though. Like, he is a little stupid. I mean, but anyway, that's so irrelevant. But anyway, after the tape was released, we hear that the Trump's longstanding financial advisor, whose name I just said before, alan-wasselberg, was subpoenaed before a cohen-grand-jury. So here it is, real quickly.
New name and a new potential problem for President Trump. Alan-Wasselberg, new to some of you, not new to Donald Trump. Wasselberg is his longtime money man, and when I say long time, I mean it. Wasselberg is the chief financial officer of the Trump organization. He's reportedly being subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury. According to the Wall Street Journal, prosecutors in New York's Southern District consider him a witness in the Michael Cohen investigation. Wasselberg has been described as, quote, the most senior person in the organization that isn't Trump himself.
Let me tell you what really, really shocked me when I first heard this. I was like, first of all, we didn't even know that Cohen had a grand jury that had already been convened. When did we know there was a grand jury that had already been convened? We found out now because of this Trump CFO. Okay, so Cohen is getting indicted unless he has some kind of cooperation deal soon, because obviously they convened a grand jury, because where is he being subpoenaed to? Where is he being subpoenaed to? Where are the federal prosecutors subpoenaing this Trump CFO? No, they're subpoenaing him before the grand jury. So, second, this advisor has the goods. The key to Trump was through his financials. That was the key. To getting Trump was through his financials. Everybody knows that a lot of the crimes that he's committing are financial transactions that are improper and that are illegal. And the way to get to him is to get to his CFO. And the CFO is very important. And now he's being subpoenaed in the Cohen case, which is not the Mueller investigation, the Cohen case. Man, I'm just loving the way these prosecutors are putting all this stuff together. This is just like some dynamite lawyering. But anyway, then there's another thing that was great that happened this week that definitely pissed off the imposter in the White House. Now, there was a case basically where the state of Maryland and D.C. and other organizations sued Trump individually and in his capacity as president for violating the emoluments clause of the United States Constitution. And anyway, a judge has ruled that case gets to go forward. Here's what happened, basically. And the judge also discussed what actually emoluments means, the first time that's ever actually been discussed since that's been in the Constitution. But anyway, here it is.
On your reporting on Trump and emoluments, that clause has been thrown about for a couple of years now. People looking for ways that the president may have violated that. What are you finding in your new reporting?
Well, here's what changed this week. So there's this clause in the Constitution, you mentioned it, the emoluments clause. It says that presidents can't take, quote-unquote, emoluments from foreign governments. But for 200 years, presidents sort of stayed away from testing that line, and we didn't really know what emoluments meant. Now we have an answer from a federal judge in Maryland, and the answer is emoluments, in his definition, means almost any business transaction Trump does with a foreign government. Not just sort of bribes or payoffs, but foreign governments paying his business to rent a ballroom or a hotel room or something else. Well, that means that now there's a huge, well, at least a sizable universe of transactions that the Trump organization has done and is doing with foreign governments that may violate the Constitution. So we're just now trying to figure out what that means and to try to get our hands around how big is that universe of foreign government transactions.
Oh, that's one thing Trump definitely did not want to happen, because now he's going to have to turn over his financial records. Actually, going to have to turn them over in relation to these hotels and his businesses and his interactions in D.C. and Maryland. And we know that hotel right beside the White House is where he's basically cashing in on his little corruption, this little imposter. In the White House, he's such a flagrant foul. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, the next couple months are going to be wild. Congress is going to go on recess. Trump will be in Washington, isolated with his own worst impulses. He will compound his legal problems and become an untenable disaster for his legal defense, which means it is all good news for us.
Make a dawn in this. Mitch Mueller. Drop that bomb buckler. I'm feeling like $1 million. Cutting up just for the money. We like nip and tuck. Jet like Benny from the Sandlot. Cost 50,000 for my Hancock. Baby. Riding to the top. Driving haters crazy. Never gonna stop. I'm feeling like $1 million. Cutting up just for the money. We like nip and tuck. Wrist watch, tip top, pockets on a milli. Give a toast to all my people. We like dilly. Pilot boys staying fly. Super Bowl like Philly. When they ask me if I'm fly, I'm like really. 3 steps ahead. Staying on the move. Don't listen to the gossip. It's barely ever true.
All right, fabulous people. I forgot to say, I'll be right back. I'm telling you, like, today, for some reason, I'm, like, lightweight distracted. I'm, like, a little bit distracted because, I'm telling you, so much is going on. Like, there's, honestly, sometimes I'm like, there's so many things I want to talk about, but I'm like, I can't talk about everything. Like I said, I want to talk about those things that I think are going to get us to the promised land. What's happening with Don Jr., what's happening with Cohen, what's going on with this Mueller investigation, the Southern District of New York, Trump's chief financial officer. Those things matter. But obviously, every time after the break, I always want to tell somebody off. So obviously, I'm going to go over a little bit longer than I said I was going to try to keep these shows under 20 minutes. But I just think I don't know why I set these arbitrary standards anyway. I don't even understand. But anyway, today I want to go off on the Republicans. Republicans in Congress have neglected their responsibilities to fulfill their oath of office. The oath used today has not changed since 1966 and is prescribed in Title V, Section 3331 of the United States Code. It reads, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. That's what you swore when we allowed you to enter office. You swore to defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You have failed. Miserably failed. Now, I understand it's easy to become so overwhelmed by the numerous scandals committed by the Trump Leons, but your cowardice and refusal to abide by and comply with your oath of office makes you equally unfit to continue to serve. You allowed Trump to attack NATO without consequences, an alliance that has only had to come to the aid of one country, the United States, after 9/11. You promoted his meeting with Kim Jong-un, a brutal dictator that kills his own family and his own people. You didn't have the gall to condemn Trump by name when he stood by Putin like a flunky, a little mouse, and denigrated the U.S. intelligence community. You've allowed him to threaten nuclear annihilation of sovereign nations. And those are just a taste of your pathetic passivity with Trump's foreign policy. Domestically, you've allowed him to implement tariffs that hurt the American consumer, roll back regulations that protect American workers, run up the debt, use our money to enrich himself, his family, and his properties. You've allowed him to lie repeatedly to the American public. You've allowed his cabinet to use our hard-earned tax money for their extravagances. You've allowed him to threaten journalists and media figures. You've sat cowardly by while he insults black people, Mexicans, Hispanics, Muslims, Asians, women, and any non-white male. You've said nothing. The truth is, you have no business in Congress or holding any office anywhere. You are too weak to defend your oath and too compromised to be credible. You let your constituents in this country down. Honestly, you let the globe down. You allowed decades of rebuilding alliances and relations be destroyed in less than a few years. You refuse to include Democrats in the political decisions despite more of the country identifying as a Democrat than Republican. You've ignored the will of the people and cowered on the sidelines while a full wrecking ball wreaks havoc on the globe. So while you take this long recess, think about not coming back. Enjoy the freedom to not have to work. It's not dissimilar to what you do when you are in Washington. At least this time, you don't have to pretend like you are working. You can sit in your house thinking up the next conspiracy theory while the flagrant imposter in the White House continues his callousness. But while you are there, stay there. Don't come back. Spend time with your family. Take a long vacation. But whatever you do, please do not come back. You aren't necessary. You offer no value, and we shouldn't be required to pay your salary. You were supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, but you can't function without express permission from Trump. You violated your oath of office and refused to defend this country and the Constitution. So retire. Stop wasting our money, because if you don't voluntarily retire, we will vote you out. You are fired. All right. That's it, fabulous people. Okay, so a couple things. Yes, I actually did do that show that I said I was going to do. I did it. I'm just putting it together. I got to load it up. It takes a while when you just This stuff is not easy to do. I'm telling you, you have to get the clips, you have to put them together, you have to do all this stuff. It's not easy, and you have to do that in between the time of being a mother and then also having work and, you know, being a lawyer. It was just like, it's a lot, believe me. So sometimes I can get behind. So forgive me, kind people, wonderful people. Please forgive me for that. But anyway, I thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yes, I am going to post Trump regrets on Monday. And yeah, they just are kind of just getting tired of him. He's like really such a weakling that I think people are just like, you're such a coward and a fraud. But anyway, nevertheless, I'm going to post those. So don't forget to check out SylviaExpress.com. And I will be posting that video. I did it. Anyway, you guys have a good weekend. I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be a better weekend than the Trump-leons. All right, you guys, take care. Have a good one.